November 1st, 2019, the Anaheim Convention Center, California. Jeff Kaplan, director of the massively popular first-person online shooter Overwatch, steps onto the stage as the theme music blasts over the speakers. Everyone knows exactly why he's here, and after a quick introduction and the lights dim, the crowd goes silent before the trailer to Overwatch 2 starts playing. There's a standard introductory cinematic, the mention of a new PvP mode, new characters, new maps. And as the trailer fades and the focus is back on Jeff, he announces the most exciting element. The reason they'll be releasing a sequel to Overwatch. An entirely new, fully fleshed out PvE or player versus environment mode. For those who've heard of the game but haven't played it, Overwatch was a 6v6 player versus player strategic shooter that emphasized teamwork over individual play. You could select from a list of unique characters with specific abilities. They were separated into 3 classes: healer, tank, and damage. Now, the way Overwatch looked to differentiate itself from games such as Team Fortress 2 was a strategic flexibility these unique characters gave you. You were free to switch between any character across any class type, depending on the map and the situation your team found themselves in. Now, while this was the original idea for what Overwatch's experience was supposed to be, it wouldn't always be this way. And looking back, this was probably our first red flag. Upon release, Overwatch proved incredibly popular. Its characters were truly unique. They all had specific abilities, strengths, and weaknesses, and the maps asked different things of players, forcing them to switch between this varied cast of well-developed characters in order to get your team the win. It was a breath of fresh air in what felt like a relatively stale multiplayer shooter environment. It was slick and well optimized. It seemed as though Blizzard had finally found its successor to its previous juggernaut titles. But of course, nothing good lasts forever, and as players grew more acquainted with the game and its mechanics, metas started to develop. It wasn't long after casual players started settling into the game did Blizzard announce the next phase of Overwatch's development, the Overwatch League. A professional league consisting of teams from around the globe, populated by paid, full-time players of the game. It was an exciting time for the community, with the very first Overwatch League game in January of 2018 being watched by a sold-out live crowd in the Blizzard Arena in Los Angeles, and over 415,000 others via the live Twitch stream. Overwatch, and subsequently Blizzard, was back on top of the world. But trouble was on the horizon. See, while casual players had started to weed out the good characters from the bad, and figure out what general team comps worked and what didn't, the professional scene took this process of discovery to a whole new level. And in no time, they ran into a particularly sticky issue: GOATs. GOATs was a seemingly unbreakable meta, dominated by 3 burly tanks and supported by 3 healers, completely bypassing the damage class. See, in the professional optimized version of Overwatch, tank characters can do almost, if not more damage, and obviously had way more health, giving players a better chance to survive an encounter should they make a mistake. Damage characters were just too easy to kill and too unforgiving should a player make the smallest of mistakes. Try as they might, no one, including Blizzard, could break this team composition, and so, on July 18th, 2019, Blizzard announced the role lock. No longer could players select literally any character they wished. Now, they would be forced to stick to one of the 3 classes for the whole game. A decision that rocked the community to its core. I'd like to say that things got better from here, but they didn't. From constantly delayed and underwhelming updates to the slow release of characters with questionable mechanics that only seemed to further restrict what playable characters were viable, Blizzard's once promising franchise was in a lot of trouble, and the player numbers, as well as the Overwatch League watch numbers, started plummeting. Fast. And this is when Blizzard pulled out their ace in the hole. See, they claimed the reason for the lackluster support and updates was because they were pouring all of their focus and resources into its sequel, Overwatch 2. Now, back to BlizzCon 2019. Given Overwatch's underwhelming performance and development, fans were incredibly skeptical of Overwatch 2, but hopeful. I mean, all the years of neglecting Overwatch to work on its sequel had to be for something, right? Well, it didn't get off to the greatest of starts. See, Overwatch 2's monetary model was now going to be very different. No longer would Overwatch be a premium game with in-game loot boxes, which had their own controversies, mind you. Overwatch 2 was to be a free-to-play game with the now infamous Season Pass system recent games had implemented. Many saw it as a blatant cash grab by a fallen game developer trying to squeeze a few bucks out of the remaining loyal fanbase. But, as had become common now, Blizzard had a reason for this disappointing development as well. The new PvE mode and hero progression system. Now this was the reason they needed to release a whole new game instead of updating the original Overwatch. This was going to change the game and revitalize their once promising franchise. This game mode, the one Jeff Kaplan would talk about after the Overwatch 2 trailer finished playing. This new, expansive game mode promised players from around the world could now play together in a fully fleshed out, narrative-driven campaign, taking on waves of NPC enemies, giant robots, and the evil rivals of the Overwatch team. This exciting new game mode also promised unique progression trees for each character that would allow players to adapt their hero's game depending on their playstyle and the mission at hand. If this wasn't enough, it also included all new special abilities and player combinations never seen in the classic PvP game. While PvP was always the original vision for the Overwatch franchise, this new PvE mode felt like a natural progression of what had come before. It took the emphasis on teamwork from the original game, but recognized some more customization and individuality could be added without taking away from the overall experience of working as a team, if implemented properly. In what should have been the biggest red flag, the original visionary and game director for the Overwatch series, Jeff Kaplan, would leave the company in April of 2021. And soon after, while originally announcing Overwatch and Overwatch 2 would both receive support and both have live servers, alongside having crossplay, it was then announced that Overwatch 2 would now replace Overwatch. When Overwatch 2 dropped, Overwatch would be gone forever, and with it, the 6 vs 6 game mode. Now, it would be 5 vs 5, whether you liked it or not. And when Overwatch 2 was released on the 4th of October 2022, things only got worse. Despite all of Blizzard's talk regarding the effort they'd put into this new release, Overwatch 2 released as a, quote, early access game with no PvE mode, simplified graphics, and the same core gameplay, but now... And before players could even sink their teeth into this, arguably dumbed-down version of the original game, a DDoS attack on the day of release blocked many from even starting the game up. To somehow make matters worse, Blizzard attempted to reduce the smurfing issue via requesting SMS verification when logging in, but many US prepaid plans didn't have SMS use in them, meaning that even when the DDoS attack was dealt with, many still couldn't log in to play the underdeveloped, early release sequel to a game that itself was underdeveloped, and all because the developer claimed that all the work that should have gone into the first game had gone into the sequel. After the dust had settled, it was clear that Overwatch 2 in its current state was a glorified Overwatch patch, with many calling it Overwatch 1.1 or 1.5, instead of referring to it as Overwatch 2. And how can you blame them? One new game mode, a few new maps that were offset by the removal of others found in the original Overwatch, with the only major gameplay difference now being 2 fewer players per match. The only thing they'd clearly put time into was the new Battle Pass system and store. Everything was monetized and incredibly expensive. But how expensive, you ask? Well, take a look at this example. If a player was to purchase just the legacy cosmetics alone, it would cost you a cool $12,080.69. Not so nice, even with the funny number. Well, what if you wanted to grind it out via earning in-game currency by completing weekly challenges? Depends on how much time you have, really, because in order to unlock the legacy content we mentioned above, you'd need to complete every weekly challenge for nearly 450 years. And once again, fans got heated. If Overwatch 2 didn't feel like a scam before its release, it was really starting to feel like one now. And then, on May 16th, 2023, we got the final nail in the coffin. Blizzard announced that their coveted PvE mode, the whole reason for Overwatch 1 and 2 being so disappointing, underdeveloped, and underwhelming, was cancelled. What we had in front of us was an early access sequel with simplified graphics, simpler gameplay, 1 new game mode, a small number of maps with few characters. That was it. Just what had Blizzard been doing with this sequel for over half a decade then? We think it's something Jeff Kaplan finally realized in 2021 when he left. Instead of investing their time and money on building a proper sequel, the suits in the now corporatized subsidiary of Activision spent all this time putting together one of the biggest scams in gaming history. And we'll see you next time here on Inturnet Dorcs. Thanks for watching.
I'm just trying to tell you how I feel, I've been on 20 that too much, but turn down.